This is Chapter 3, Lesson 5, Divide Multi-Digit Numbers. So the first thing I want to do is label the division problem with the correct vocabulary terms, quotient, dividend, and divisor. Okay? So the quotient is an answer to a division problem. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, right, 3 is my quotient. Okay, 3 is my quotient. Okay, so my quotient is my answer to a division problem. Okay, and then I have the dividend and the divisor. Okay, the divisor is what I'm dividing by. So 80 is my divisor, and 240 is my dividend. Okay, so 80 is what I'm dividing by, 240 is what I'm dividing into, so the dividend. Okay, so if I divide 3-digit dividends, okay, so it says in this lesson you will divide multi-digit numbers. Use estimation to help you place the first digit in the quotient. Okay, so let's look at example number 1. Okay, so example number 1 says find 351 divided by 9. Okay, so if I look at this, I'm going to ask myself a couple of things. I look at 351 and I'm dividing by 9. Can 9 go into 3? No. But 9 can go into 35. 9 can go into 35 3 times. 3 times 9 gives me 27. So 35 minus 27 gives me 8, and I bring down my 1. Okay. 9 can go into 81 9 times. Okay. 9 can go into 81 9 times. 9 times 9 gives me 81. 81 minus 81 equals 0. So 351 divided by 9 is 39. Let's look at example number 2. It says find 878 divided by 31. Okay, so I'm going to ask myself, how many times can 31 go into 8? It can't go into 8. Okay, so that's 0. Then I ask myself, well, how many times can 31 go into 87? 31 can go into 87 2 times. 2 times 31 equals 62. 87 minus 62 gives me 25, and I bring down my 8. Okay. Then I ask myself, what 31 can go into 258 how many times? Answer is 8. 8 times 31 equals 248, so I subtract and I get 10. So 878 divided by 31 is 28 with a remainder of 10. There are 2 try-it problems on this page. Go ahead, pause the video, try them out, and when you're done, we will go over the answers together. All right, now that you've tried the try-it problems, let's go over the answers together. So letter A says 768 divided by 8. So I'm going to set it up. I have 768 divided by 8. The first thing I want to ask myself is how many times does 8 go into 7? Well, 8 can't go into 7, right? So I ask myself, can 8 go into 76? Yes. 8 can go into 76 9 times. 9 times 8 is 72, and I subtract. 6 minus 2 is 4. 7 minus 7 is 0. I bring down my 8. Then I ask myself, can 8 go into 48? Yes. 8 can go into 48 6 times. 8 times 6 is 48, and I subtract. So my answer is 96. Letter B is 16. 318 divided by 16. Okay, so the first thing I ask myself is, can 16 go into 3? No, 16 cannot go into 3. Then I ask myself, can 16, so how many times can 16 go into 31 then? Okay. 16 can go into 31 one time. 1 times 16 is 16, and I subtract. So when I borrow, 11 minus 6 is 5, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, and I bring down my 8. Next thing I want to know is, how many times can 16 go into 158? Okay, 16 can go into 158 9 times. 9 times 16 gives me 144, so I subtract. 8 minus 4 gives me 4, and 5 minus 4 gives me 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So my answer is 19 with a remainder of 14. I have a couple more examples to look at. So example number 3 says find 6,493 divided by 75. Okay, so again, I ask myself a series of questions. Can 75 go into 6? No. Can 75 go into 64? No. Can 75 go into 649? Yes. How many times? 8. 8 times 75 gives me 600, and I subtract. 649 minus 600 gives me 49, and I bring down the 3. Can 75 go into 493? Yes, 6 times. 6 times 75 gives me 450. Okay, 493 minus 450 equals 43. Okay, so that means my quotient is 86, remainder 43. Okay. Then I have example number 4. Example number 4 says the average person has 1,460 dreams a year. What is the average number of dreams a person has each night? Okay, so the first thing I want to figure out is, how many days are there in a year? Well, there's 365 days in most years, right? Except leap years, and then there's 366. Okay, but we're going to look at 365. So I'm going to take 1,460 and divide it by 365. Okay, this will tell me how many days, how many dreams a person has on average per day. So 365 cannot go into 1, it cannot go into 14, it cannot go into 146. It can go into 1,460, 4 times. 4 times 365 is 1,460. I subtract and I get 0, so I have no remainder. So the average number of dreams a person has each night is 4. Okay. So there are 3 try problems on this page. Go ahead, try them out. When you're done, we will go over the answers together. All right, now that you've had a chance to try out the try out problems on your own, let's go over the answers together. So the first one I have is C, find 4,321 divided by 56. So I want to ask myself a couple of things. Can 56 go into 4? Can 56 go into 43? No. Can 56 go into 432? Yes. Okay, so then I want to figure out how many times it can go into 432. Okay, so 56 can go into 432 7 times. 7 times 56 gives me 392, and I subtract. 2 minus 2 is 0. To borrow, 13 minus 9 is 4. Then I bring down my 1. Okay. 56 can go into 401 7 times. So I'm going to get 392 when I multiply, and I borrow. 11 minus 2 is 9. So I get a remainder of 9. So 77 remainder 9 is my answer. Okay. Letter D says find 8,465 divided by 91. Okay. So 91 cannot go into 8, and 91 cannot go into 84, but 91 can go into 846. It goes in 9 times. 9 times 91 gives me 819, and so I subtract. I have to borrow. So 16 minus 9 gives me 7. 3 minus 1 gives me 2. So I have 27. I bring down my 5. Okay. 91 can go into 275 3 times. So I get 273, and I subtract. So I get a remainder of 2. So my answer is 93 remainder 2. Okay. Then I have letter E, which is a word problem. It says, to promote its opening weekend, a water park gave the local middle school 1,050 free tickets. The middle school has 350 students. Each student will receive the same number of tickets. How many tickets will each student receive? Okay, so I need to set up a division problem for this, right? I'm going to take the number of tickets that they gave, 1,050, and I'm going to divide it by the number of students that are at the middle school. So 1,050 is my dividend, and 350 is my divisor, okay? So then I'm going to try to figure out how many times 350 can go into 1,050. Okay, so I want to ask myself, can 350 go into 1? No. Can 350 go into 10? Nope. Can 350 go into 105? No. Can 350 go into 1,050? Yes. Okay, so then I have to figure out how many times it can go into 3,000 or 1,050. Okay. 350 can go into 1,050 3 times. 350 times 3 is 1,050, and then I subtract and I get 0. So this means that each student can receive 3 tickets. And that is the end of lesson 5.